Welcome back. All right. We've just had a lot of good discussion in here. Now we want to, what in this, the term, we had this label as a rubric and we changed to framework because that's what the definition says. Now there's all kind of definitions of framework, but in my simple mind, and this was created a while back, we'll go through some of those, but just have something simple that we can all buy into, that is applicable for all of us, that doesn't change what we're doing, but it will cause us to behave differently, if that makes sense. So we've got knowledge, skills, and behaviors across here, and there's several different questions that can drive this, the question and drive the conversation differently. We're starting with where? Where do students gain knowledge? Well, if you just say the classroom, that doesn't get you anything. So where do we the first one you're going to see in a minute says, where is knowledge defined? Where do we go with that? And we already have that. If we get into the actual curriculum framework, like lesson plans and all of that, this is appropriate. This is trying to drive these four things, not the actual academic content. And I think that's a big difference in defining the terms. So we've got those four across, and then the big piece is these three over here. Now, when this was originally designed, if you've not seen this before, Renee and Blaine and Dennis and I brainstormed the first one of these, and these were all coming out of pathways, and these three were school counseling. But these are the three big domains that everybody knows people have to have, students have to have, but and then we just added the experiences one. Now if you look at those 12 boxes, this is not linear, so you don't just get knowledge. Let's just start here. Which one of these 12 boxes do we historically focus on? Academic knowledge, right here. But we all know that there's a whole lot more, but we don't do it for the reasons we just talked about, but we're all buying in and saying that they are important. And this doesn't say that every teacher in every class has to hit all 12 of these, but this says that in order for the student to be success ready, they've got to have multiple experiences and exposures to all of these, whatever that looks like. It'll be different, schools will be different and kids will be different. So if we look at academic knowledge, where is that defined? Where do students gain that? Well, we're not just talking about the classroom or in football. We're talking about what is that knowledge, but this is, where do we define this? So we got to talk about what's the right question for us, for DESE. I mean, think about, I really want you to compartmentalize this. What are we doing for us? What do we have to do? Because schools have to implement it. We just have to set them up, and it's two different questions. So if we walk across this, you don't first get knowledge and then build skills and then get behaviors and then have experiences. We all know that, Leon said it before, experiences reinforce the others, or Tom, somebody did. These are all, they're not linear across and they're not sequential. It just happens because skills reinforce knowledge. You can't really have a skill without having knowledge. You know, you've got to have, it's interesting that you brought up the behaviors of the academic disciplines of mind versus sitting in your chair. You know, I think that's a deep conversation that's really a significant one that I had never thought of, and that's the power of collaboration. But if we do all 12 of these, and the kids have those experiences over time, they should meet our definition of success ready. And so, if you think about your work right now, one of the things we're going to have you do is start filling these blanks in. Let's hit the next one. I just stuck this one in today. PLTW has been having this conversation. We just talked, I got to hear their CEO. Their three components are biomedical engineering and computer science, and now they call them transportable skills that you can take from school into the workplace, and you can see what they are. But they are building these, they're figuring out how to build those metrics into their assessment system, because right now they have EOCs on academic content, and that's the score we get. They also know that they do a whole lot more than academics. They live this process. If we want models, they're already here, but this is just new this year, that they've got an assessment built in that they can use nationwide.
Are they going to build it into their curriculum as well, or just the assessment piece?
I think it already is built in, now whether it's formally built in, but PLTW and Engineering by Design, like many of the things that happen in CTE are project-based learning based. And so these things naturally happen. I mean, they're already doing this. Now I'm thinking they're formalizing it, so it'll be both. Because it doesn't make any sense not to have it in curriculum if it's going to be in the assessment. But the point is, we're not reinventing the wheel. It's being done, and we can look to other places. SERB, SREB's model is similar to PLTW that we don't promote here, but it has similar pieces to it. Okay? Next one. So this was the first one. Notice that there's just 3 of them, and then we started filling in. Notice the question, where is knowledge defined? Where do students practice skills, and where do they gain experiences? And we just started filling in things from our perspective, okay? So that when schools want to know where do you get academic knowledge, they know where to go. I mean, this is what we drill on all the time. So if you want a true curriculum framework, Chip was just talking about this is not a true curriculum framework, no argument, it's a framework for success ready. The definition calls it an integrated curriculum framework, but hopefully if we address these, we can look at this. You know, language and math are here. I'm glad you guys are here. Does this make sense to you, and what would that look like in your curriculum? Because whether it's English and math or ag, kids still have to do the same things. They still have to have the same mental disciplines. They still have to have practice. They still have to have experiences to ingest it. What's that look like as we build our curriculums independently of each other, but under the same framework or model or whatever term you want to use? So we're not advocating this, but we're just saying this is an example of where we started, and it'll grow from there. Okay? Any questions along the way? Next. So.
All right, so now just briefly before we start the work, we need to all have a common understanding of what all these terms mean. So I sent these out in that first email. Hope some of you had a chance to think about how you would define them. But just think for a minute, how would we define social emotional growth or personal competencies?
Well, I have them, but I don't know if you want them.
So how about I'll just read one to you and see how we like it. How about that? Social emotional learning, the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, show and feel empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions.
Wow.
Sounds like character.
Sounds like character.
It is.
Show me those guys.
So, is there anything missing out of that definition?
Maybe read it again.
All right, let me try it again. The process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions.
I go back to when you first introduced what you were going to say. It's important that we all have an understanding of this. You didn't say it's important that we all have a knowledge of this. Understanding implies that we're able.
On the same page.
Well, no, that we're able to apply these things rather than just to know about them. So if I were allowed to change that chart, I would change where do students gain understandings? Yes, because so often, like for instance, an example I was reading about the other day. I'm talking too much. The students will tell you that the reason that we have the seasons is because the Earth is often farther away from the sun than at other times of the year. That's what they instinctively understand. But when asked to provide whoever is asking the question with their rote knowledge, then they'll say, oh, it's the tilt of the Earth on its axis. but they will have no understanding of that. That's, did you guys get that?
So social emotional learning. You're right, Tom, I don't have a problem with changing that.
Well,
We
but
have
you
take
need
it
to
back
have
to the team.
understanding of knowledge, an understanding of skills, understanding of behaviors, and understanding of experiences. So to me, that's a universal term.
It is
That applies
universal,
to
but
all of them, to all of them.
it is a universal term, but it's one that we don't often think about as teachers, because we teach our kids to pass our tests and regurgitate knowledge, rather than creating ways for them to actually show their understanding through some of these other things that we had up here, like experiential learning and integrating other content areas into being able to show us that understanding. So I think it's important that we don't have that book by Wiggins and Tighe called Knowledge by Design. We call it Understanding by Design.
I looked at several sites and they always come to those 5 core areas that you just talked about. And when you look at it, whether it's under personal competencies or social and emotional growth, it comes to 5 core competencies. And that's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So it's those 5 core areas, and when you describe social competence, it's self-awareness and self-management. When you look at social competence, it's social awareness and relationship management. And I mean, there's so many, Illinois has got their frameworks done. They've been leading this, and Colorado's doing a nice job too. And they already have a lot of framework pieces together, but that's where, when you look at those are what you just mentioned,
So
the 5 areas.
All right.
But they still have just as many societal ills as Missouri.
I'm just
So we
saying,
have-
there are pieces out there to look at.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like you have to reinvent it.
Yeah. All right, so on your matrix or framework, we have on the front, you'll have the opportunity to write down where, and on the back, you'll have an opportunity to write down how they apply to you. If you can't think of anything, no problem. We're going to have a gallery walk for everybody to make comments and fill in the blanks if we need to. So just an idea, that's what we'll be doing for these 2,
We're going to do that today?
Well,
partially.
yeah. I think we need to go back a step, because we can get lost in the definitions, and talk about the buy-in for this. Because this is the framework that we're proposing. This came out of, it was created within our committee that we had listed on the front, looked through it and agreed with it and understand what it was. And I think we didn't talk about
Yeah.
buying into this. And I think this is the piece that we're really promoting today. So what are your thoughts, pro or con or whatever, about implementing, using this framework, calling it, I don't care if we call it a framework or call it something else. It's not, I get what you're saying, Chip, and you might want to talk to that too on what you're thinking and where you're at with this. But we need to have a shared understanding to move forward with this on how it's going to impact our work individually. When you take it back to your cube, can you work with this? Is it meaningful? Is it worth your effort? And then can we use it collectively, that we're saying all the same thing about what Success Ready is? Because we think this fits the definition that we all bought into on what a Success Ready kid is, and will help us think about those different dynamics. So your response to this?
I know you said it's not linear. However, I think, in my opinion, most of the time we focus on skills and hope for the best on the rest. My suggestion would be to put skills first, then knowledge or understanding, and our goal or behaviors. I'm torn on experiences. I would like to see experiences first, and then skills, knowledge, and then we change behaviors. But I think that would help people that the real goal is to change behavior. Not that you know 6 times 7. But that your behavior for the rest of your life, these are the types of problem-solving things, these are, you come to school on time too, I mean, both sides of the behavior thing. But that would just help me, I like the vertical axis. I just would like to tweak the horizontal axis
But see, you want to tweak it
mathematically.
to make it linear,
Right.
but it's not linear, it never is, because experiences can feed the other 3. You have to have knowledge before you can do skills.
I think we teach skills first.
It depends what you're talking
No.
about. You're talking about skills.
Addition is a large concept. We do a lot of skill building so that they develop an understanding of addition. But it's all skill-based.
I mean, when I think of skills, take a group of students out of shop, teach them how to weld.
Yep.
Well, they have to have a basic knowledge before we can be close to applying that knowledge in a skill setting. So we just have a different interpretation of skill.
Right.
What would you say, Chip? I'm anxious to hear what you've got to say.
No, I'm okay, just,
No, I mean, just about the simple question of knowledge and skills and math.
It could be anything.
yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
that it's, math is unique in certain ways, but I don't know that that particularly matters. I continue to be intrigued at people creating structures that are fairly complex, given a lack of time and resources to promote them. And for some reason, it seems to me that if we lasered in on a few things and focused our attention there, on some things that we could be collective, instead of creating, think about how much time you've spent generating this, and will continue to generate this, but that's all that ultimately that will really happen is we've generated this as opposed to the real impact. So I'm struggling with the process and the reality that this structure ends up getting in the way of getting the goals done.
And I appreciate you saying this, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to be here, because I'm a short timer, but in my head, it's just the opposite of what you're thinking. And that is, this is a pebble to throw into the pond that causes the ripple effect that will reach beyond all this. Because we all, right now, our current model is we drill down into the detail in every specific subject we do because we're content focused. And we're not focused, our whole structure is not geared on student success, it's on academic success of students. And that's an overgeneralization, I understand that's not 100% accurate, but I'm just going in a direction. And if we look at all 12 of those systematically, it's going to cause us to do our job differently, and it's going to cause us to collaborate, it's going to cause us to have shared understanding and a unified message that is going to move that whole premise of success ready versus academic excellence. We all know that we've got kids that have straight A's that regurgitate, they do exactly what we tell them to do, and they're no more ready for success in the next level than the man in the moon, because we're measuring one of those 12 boxes. So I see this as just the opposite of where you're seeing it, and it's not right or wrong, and that's why we need to have these discussions on what's the purpose of this.
I think as far as the time issue goes, this is just the first step of the process. I mean, this is supposed to end in 2021, after having stakeholder meetings and big promotion and all of that too. So, but the first thing is we need to get an integrated framework together. That's just something that came up during our meetings, so that's what this is all about.
Other thoughts and reactions to this?
You know, to me, if you've got a highly effective teacher in your school, highly effective program, they can check all the boxes as they go through the year. if they're focused too much on just any one particular area, then their students are gonna be lacking at the end. And I'm not saying that all students all teachers, all programs have to have everything, but it sure would be nice if somewhere in that school system, by the time they go 9 through 12, they've hit on all those. And I see tremendous reinforcement on the skills to the knowledge, the experience to knowledge. Hopefully you put them in situations where they can develop those behaviors as you go along. And that's why I asked is it a formal piece of PLTW instruction, or is it just that they place them at a work experience and there's a checklist every day that the employer fills out, and if you need to focus on showing up to work on time, or doing whatever, working as a team, that they work with them that way. Most programs do not have that formal behavioral instruction piece into it, and that's why assessing is fine, but you still got to give them that experience to get to that.
And, I mean, I agree with it. Every single one of those is an outcome-based. You want an outcome. And we want to have behavioral outcomes, we want to have skill outcomes, we want to have knowledge, and we do it through a variety of experiences to impact, to develop protective factors and skill development in kids. So, as I'm looking at this information, it's not just about teaching the knowledge, but that skill development, practicing decision-making, problem-solving in every class, how a teacher empowers those kids with project, the different instructional practices. I mean, how many different things have we had development on? Howard Gardner, multiple intelligences. How do we get every kid to be successful? So it involves a lot of different ways of thinking, for sure.
So I think the framework's fine. It's not so much the framework, it's just what you put in the framework. And if anything is like omitted, it'll make itself readily apparent. Like for instance, there's all kinds of things that I see that can't be addressed in this right now, but I would give it a chance to see if I can figure out how to plug those things in.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, that's the next step.
Well-
We've got 5 minutes left.
Can I
so-
interject one more thing? When I was working in one school district, they're already measuring these pieces of social, emotional, or personal, whatever you want to call it. So they're already measuring those pieces in addition to grades, so they can sort of look at students, high risk, and put interventions in place.
Yeah, there's already.
So there's already a lot of stuff going on.
I know a lot of schools doing that.
Right.
They're separating academic grades from behavior grades.
Yes.
And so,
Well, and
But-
CTE does this, PLTW does it, there's examples of all of this going on already.
It's just pulling.
And I know we're out of time, you guys, can you last 5 more minutes? Because I think one more question, what's the difference? Tom brought up, wait this out and it'll go away, which is we all understand that. What has to happen in this room and in this floor for this to have to have sustainability?
It has to be revisited time and time
It
again.
needs to be a culture change from within. That's the only way it
Agree.
becomes sustainable.
Totally agree.
And is there,
The
in
key
this,
word earlier was integration. And not be, more than just integrating this, it's integrating all the different areas represented, I think.
I think if you want to sustain it, you gotta give them MSEP points.
I agree with that too.
And I agree 100%. We've talked about that with the ICAP. And I think that we have to prove to MSIP that this is something that we, as an office, are gonna promote and that it has value, and then show them how do you award points. Maybe it's something that they're talking about, I don't know what 6 is looking like, but they're talking about bringing back resource and process standards. Maybe the experiences thing is something we don't touch at DESE, that they've got to check off that says the kids have had these experiences through the ICAP or whatever it is. So, we might have to be creative, but I think we need to drive forward in order to prove to people that this has validity to be worthy of an MSIP point. So,
Commissioners got me on board.
oh, that's, you got it. But we've got to have, this is bottom up right now. I mean, Blaine's got to be a champion of it, and then we got to work from there too. So, is there any reservation about moving forward? I think that was the main thing, is to explain what we're thinking, what the group thought is out of the SPM group, and to see if there's buy-in and endorsement or reservations. Because the detail of this is yet to come. That's one of the things that I like about this. Is simple, but the work is not. When you drill down into all this stuff, it'll get complicated, but it doesn't have to be, because we're not inventing anything that I can see. Any other comments?
It's not gonna go away. It's just going to continue to get worse unless we start addressing it, because you already see the trends of lack of engagement in schools and suicidal factors and trauma-informed factors and mental. We have over 13,000 kids with anxiety and mental disorders in our Missouri schools right now, and we collect that data, so we have to address those issues.
Homework.
Homework, yeah. So, I printed you some of these so we could do some sketches today, but we're already out of time. So what I'm gonna do is email you this version of it, and we'd like you to fill, or take some time, fill these out by August 1st, and email them back to us. And what we're going to do with them is we're going to make big posters out of them, hang them around the office, and then have a follow-up gallery walk sometime in August. Again, they'll be hanging up. If you're in the office, we'll have a range of dates to where we can go around, make comments, and try to integrate all of our work.
And these are from our point of view,
From your
Yes.
perspective. And again,
not the
it'd
full.
be great to
No,
have
my
this is-
point of view.
Yeah.
Experience.
yeah,
From
just
what's your program, from a
From my
program
experience.
perspective.
from a
Program
program's
and
perspective.
personal.
And does every box need to be filled in? No, it doesn't. I mean, if a box isn't filled in, that's gonna be a discussion point for us, right? So, it's a draft. This first one that we turn in, that we're gonna turn into posters, is a draft. And we're gonna turn it into a large-scale gallery walk, where we can go around and put notes and, hey, I like this, or what about this?
Well, there could also be statements on here that, I'm very smart, you guys know that I don't understand what they are.
Mhm.
Somebody writes something in there from their point of view, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. Because, as Tom says, I live in my silo, so, you know.
And we're breaking down the silos.
Actually, I want to build on what you just
So,
asked.
let me just, does everybody understand that? So August 1st, we'll have this all done. We'll have a gallery walk later in August, and then we'll kind of regroup and put that all together.
And then you turn it on. The key is